This is Things Police See, First-Hand Accounts, with your host, Steve Gold.
Welcome to the podcast that interviews active and retired police officers about their most intense, bizarre, and sometimes humorous moments on the job. It is I, Old Gingerface, here with you always. Thank you for being here, everybody. Glad to have you. If you're new to the show, thank you for finding it. You can look back in the back catalog. There's over 200 hours of podcast interviews with the men and women of law enforcement. True stories, unedited, how they live them. Just a lot of listening you can do, and it's evergreen. There's not much really topical stuff in there. It's just evergreen stories from coppers. And yeah, it's been quite a wild ride. I appreciate you guys who are finding the show and binge listening. I still do see I don't harp on it as much as I used to, but I do see the 5-star reviews coming in, and I do still really appreciate that. And I do appreciate all the notes you guys drop me about how the guests inspired you to become a copper, or you're retiring from academy. And I would share those too. I never ask because I know probably, especially a new cop, probably doesn't want his face out there, maybe, I don't know. But when you do send them, let me know if I can share them, because I would definitely throw them up there and give you a shout out if you didn't mind doing that. Today's episode, guys, really excited. It's kind of a special episode. This gentleman's been on before. He's got a long and storied career in law enforcement. He's a retired lieutenant commander of the New York City Police Department with over 40 years of law enforcement experience. Retired as commanding officer of the Bronx Homicide Task Force, which handled over 400 murder investigations a year. He's authored a bunch of books that are not only entertaining, but also have been used as kind of manuals for doing complex and homicide investigations. One of them being Practical Homicide Investigations. He's known as the Godfather of Homicide. Friend of the show and my friend, the great Vernon Geberth. Vernon.
Thank you, Steve. Nice introduction.
Oh, my pleasure, man. I'm so happy to have you on. It even feels weird when I have you guys who are like command staff on using your first and last name, not calling you Lieutenant Commander, not snapping to.
Well, it's kind of a neat title. But before you get to be a lieutenant commander, you gotta pay your dues of the street. I mean, some of these people in law enforcement, they get promoted too early, and they don't understand the job, and that's the problem.
Yeah, especially right now when we're having. I went to a class recently, and they said we're kind of having a sergeant/middle management crisis where everybody's getting younger and younger, but then a lot of guys who would be sergeant or lieutenant are leaving. So there's kind of a crisis of like, we got a bunch of kids. We kind of need like the salt and pepper guys to step up, but they're being harder and harder to find. And then the new recruits coming in are just too young. So there are people making sergeant, with 2 or 3 years on the job. Some work out fine. Some absolutely are not ready for it. So it creates kind of an issue.
Well, sure. Leadership has always been an issue in law enforcement. Thank God I was in a major department it was an army, 30,000 people.
Yeah, it's the size of the Coast Guard.
Yeah, well, the truth of the matter is when you're in a unit operation that big, you get to see a lot of different personalities, different characters. And the bottom line is I was always, one of these gun-ho, take these guys off the street, do what we got to do, protect the neighborhood. So a tactical patrol force, we were the elite. And every 30 days, they would move us into a different area. And these were high crime areas. The people would love to have us come in. The people who didn't like to have us come in were the cops that were on the take and were kind of doing things they weren't supposed to do.
Yeah.
And it was kind of funny because we didn't care. We came in, did what we had to do, and that's how I got promoted so quickly. I mean, within 3 years, I was a white shield detective. That's pretty fast. And then, of course, I got killed, and later on I got promoted. But I loved the time I spent in TPF, and looking at what's going on today with these riots. Let me tell you something. Those riots would have been over in one day back in the day.
Yeah, speaking of that, so that was Vernon was kind enough to send me his book, and I've been reading through it, and that's kind of the point of this. The guy's just got so much experience and has had so many great stories that just had to have you back on just to go over this stuff. And I picked out a few investigations and stories that I thought were just really fun. And like you said about the riots going on today. So can you take us through the great blackout of 1977? And what did you and your team do to solve these issues back then? What was going on?
Well, that was a complete disaster. By that time, I was a detective sergeant in Manhattan North, which is encompasses Harlem and Washington Heights. The blackout, we didn't know it was going to be a total blackout, but we're in the position of processing prisoners on a narcotics arrest when the lights started flickering. I made a call downtown. They said, "Look like there's going to be a major blackout." Now, I had been in the original blackout back in when I first came into the police department, 1965, and I tell you that was pretty bad. But the one in 1977, it was almost you could feel the tension, you could feel the explosion coming. I had my guys hurry up and process them. Let's get back to the command. By the time we got back to the command, all the lights were out. We had auxiliary officers there with flashlights to bring us upstairs to our lockers to get our helmets and materials so that we could identify as police.
Right.
And we had an unmarked car. And I designated my car tactical response, okay, on the radio. So when there was something, we would tactically respond, 4 of us.
And you did that so
And
you guys could stay together, right?
absolutely, I wanted my men with me because they knew who I was and I knew who they were, and I could trust them to take action and protect their backs and my back. So our first response was these stores were being looted like crazy. Yeah, I never saw anything like it in my life. And it's like piranhas. They came
Oh man.
stuff was going out. So the first couple, we would pull up and we'd grab people and we'd turn them over to the uniforms. But then we realized we didn't have enough people. We were outnumbered. It was more of them than us. So now we go into a real, what are we going to do? Well, we're going to try to stop it, but we're going to issue summary justice for anybody we can catch. So we pulled up at these different stores, and one was a food market, and they were taking stuff out back and forth, and came in, and I had my team with me, and we knew we couldn't arrest them. I mean, there was too many. So we gave the option: you want to be arrested or you want to be sentenced? They opted to be sentenced. So I hit them on the head with a frozen turkey. I mean, this was outrageous,
Unbelievable.
but listen, it was summary justice. It was basically an insurrection. It was out of control. There was no civil order. There was no courts. There were no laws. So I made my own laws. You're sentenced. So when we ran out of turkeys, we got frozen chickens. So as the next group came in, we were bombarded with frozen chickens. So the word went out, there's crazy cops and they're hitting us with chickens. So they stay away. Well, we were doing very good, and we were, taking care of business. But then we went to this other store, and we pulled up, and oh my God, what a tactical error we made. We thought there were like 20 or 30. There were 100 people in the store. They came out, they overwhelmed us. We had to pull back. Next thing I know, I'm back to back with a uniformed sergeant, a black sergeant from the 3-0 precinct. And we're basically protecting each other from stuff coming off off the roofs, bottles, bricks, and we're firing shots to stop it. And as he reloads, I reload. This was
Wow.
all of a sudden, boom, I get hit in the helmet with a brick. I thought I was shot. That's how much it hurt
So
and
loud too.
shocked me, right? And so, the adrenaline's flowing now. At this point, I'm not stopping. When we were able to pull back from that, I said, "Wow, I got a hell of a headache, and I wasn't shot, so thank God I'm all going to be okay." But as the sun began to come up, I says, I better go, knowing how the police department is, I better go and have myself checked because they'll never believe that I stayed on duty. Because if anybody else got hit, they would have went sick. Not Vernon. So I'm not stopping until the sun comes up. Well, sure enough, I went to the hospital. They patched me up and they told me, they gave me some, I don't know, cervical strain or some crap. Oh, a slight concussion. So the next day, I wake up, I can't move my neck. Now I'm in trouble.
Yeah.
Thank God I reported because there's a line of duty injury. And so I had to went to a real doctor, okay, who examined me and he sent me to an orthopedic surgeon. And they diagnosed me and told me, you can't do anything. You had a concussion, you got a cervical strain. And so I was wearing a neck brace. The problem was, at that time, I had a jackass lieutenant, a real dildo, a piece of crap that never should have been in charge of anybody. And he was my boss. And he starts giving me a hard time about being out sick and this and that. And he's trying to, well, the bottom line is I saw it coming. I was able to defend myself. I'm pretty astute with operational protocols and what you have to do. So I always protected my men and myself. This was the culmination of a number of things that took place prior to the blackout. We had a major case that he screwed up. We had another narcotics case that he lost the money. I mean, it was nonstop with him. If you read, there's 3 chapters in the book, Steve. 13, 14, and 15. Operation Octopus. You want to see a crazy case? Anyway, make a long story short, I'm going to be exiting after this blackout, and I'm going to go back to the detective division. And it was kind of interesting.
Yeah, it's very smart, and you're very right about getting hurt on duty. And when I was a young cop, we had a big storm, and I went out to, we were keeping all the cruisers that were running cleared off, and I slipped, and one of those slips where you go, and before you know it, you're looking at your feet, and I went right on my back in the back parking lot, and it hurt, just about knocked the wind out of me. And I was working with a sergeant, and he was like, oof, he's like, are you all right? I'm like, yeah, I think I'm all right. My back hurts. And he's like, you need to make a decision right now. He said, walk it off for 5 minutes, figure out if you're hurt or you're injured. Because if you're injured and you just work through this and come in the next day, it's going to be a lot more difficult for you. He said,
Absolutely.
But he said, if you're
Gave you
injured,
good advice.
yeah, he said, if you are actually hurt and you think your back might be jacked up, you're coming right off the line. You got to go to the hospital and, X, Y. And I was only in like my mid-20s, so I was pretty sure I was okay. And I was sore for a couple of days. But that stuck with me where he was like, because he'd been through it before where you could have a nagging injury, you got wrestling somebody, and you let it go a couple weeks, month. The first thing they're going to do is not own it. They're not going to want you to cash in on that at all. They don't want to support that.
Absolutely. He gave you advice, and I knew that I had to do that because I had been injured before. I mean, listen, when you're an active cop, you're going to get injuries. Now that I'm older, they've all come back. Two shoulder replacements, a knee replacement.
Right.
I got all kinds of issues. But when you're young and you're full of piss and vinegar, you're not thinking like that.
Right. You just want to keep going.
I'll shake it off. Yeah, but then later on, and if you didn't report it, you're SOL.
Yeah, absolutely. So I just thought it was interesting with that case you're talking about, the blackout, that just from what we see how they handle things now, you essentially were like, all right, this is mayhem. This is civil unrest. We're just going to do some street justice and keep moving, get people stop doing this. And nowadays it's like they will force the cops to sit there and watch until it's so big it's almost too late. But you guys were just kicking ass. Like right away you were, what did you say in the book about something about stick time? They were earning the stick time or something. I forget.
Well, I could have referred to a number of different ways to explain that. It's Coca-Cola shampoo. Okay. Sentence on the spot. You have to understand something, that what happened in the 1977 blackout, I'm bringing the experience of 1965 and 66.
So you knew how bad it could be.
Because we were the riot cops. Now, it used to be wild. Every summer, there'd be a riot for whatever reason. We used to call it the Summer Olympics because there was always something going. We were so well organized for this. We were in constant training. We were getting sniper training, building rappelling, crowd control. And the tactical patrol force would respond to the riot, and we would take it out. So let me give an example. When we weren't at the riot, we'd be in the inner cities, Harlem, South Bronx, Brooklyn, Bedford-Stuyvesant. We all had certain radios, tactical patrol force radios. When a riot was declared, we would get a signal. We would report to a street corner, and we would be picked up by a big black, green, and white bus. And they would take our nightsticks and give us axe handles. We would go on the bus, and then we would respond to the riot. There'd be 2 cars in the front, 2 cars in the back with those old-fashioned percussion sirens that go off the buildings. And as they come into the area, the sirens would stop, just the lights, and we would have the axe handles on the floor of the bus. Boom, 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 like a Roman legion. It would psych these folks out. And when we poured off the bus, we went into special V formations and we targeted who the instigators were. We'd go into the crowd, pull them out, pull back. It was so effective. And when I watch what's going on today, I get pissed off because there's no need for this shit. I'm watching Los Angeles. I'm watching Chicago. They won't let the cops do the job.
Yeah.
And I don't think the bosses know how to do the job because everybody's so politically correct, they become operationally ineffective.
Yeah, they're scared.
We went to more riots and stopped it. Now, my pleasure was when I first got promoted to sergeant, I got stuck in a precinct. I had never worked at a precinct. I lasted there 3 weeks. I drove the inspector crazy. He called me in his office. "You're one of those TPF Nazis, right?" I said, "Yes, sir." "You want to go back to TPF?" I says, "Yes, sir." I was back as a sergeant. Now I'm in the tactical patrol force as a sergeant, and I know exactly what I got to do because I was a cop before, but now I got squads. And it was fantastic. I remember one night there was a riot in Brooklyn, and they activated us citywide. We had to go to Brooklyn. So we arrive at Brooklyn, and we got a shaky inspector there. He's typical ranking officer that's scared of his own shadow.
Vernon, just for the
And
listeners, what is inspector in the rank structure? Because it sounds very
Oh,
English.
okay. Sure. Well, you know what a captain is.
Yep.
This would be one rank above captain, deputy inspector. Okay, then above that is deputy chief and assistant chief. This guy's a deputy inspector, which means he's looking to go up the ladder. He wants to get promoted to a higher position. He doesn't want any problems. And we got this riot. So it's too late because he's activated the tactical patrol force. Now I arrive and I see he's shaky. So I go up to the roof and I watch the riot for about 10 minutes. I have it all figured out. There's 6 people that are doing all the action. The rest of the people in front of the crowd, they're throwing stuff from the back. So I tell the inspector, "Listen, inspector," I says, "we're going to stop this riot." I said, "I'm taking a squad. Give us a couple minutes. We're going to jog around. We come around the back." I says, "And when I give you the signal, move forward and we'll move in." Sure enough, we grabbed 6 bastards and we laid them out, right? Took them out of the crowd. No riot. It's all over. Everybody else goes home.
Cut the head
Yeah,
off.
that's what we did. Listen, I was operational,
Yep.
always thinking outside the box.
No, very cool. The next story I wanted to talk to you about, or story about call investigation you did was pretty fascinating, and I can imagine even back then super politically charged. It had to do with the school system, had to do with a gay man, but a school teacher was found murdered in his home, and
Correct.
can you tell us that investigation kind of laid out?
Sure, it was an early Sunday morning. He was the organist at his local Baptist church, but he didn't show up. So somebody from the church went to his apartment, and the door was unlocked, and he found the body of the school teacher. I got called at home, and that was my standard operating procedure. Any homicide that comes in, no matter vacation or from off duty, I come in. So I come in, they're at the scene, my guys, and the first thing we identify the victim. It's his apartment. Now, one thing about homicide investigation, one of the most important things we do is victimology. Who is the victim? What was going on in the victim's life at the time of the homicide? His associations, his background, his lifestyle. Well, early on, we could see he's homosexual, all right? The only thing missing, the only thing out of sync in that apartment with all the artsy, crafty stuff was a baseball bat. That baseball bat's not his,
Yeah.
all right? But there's no forced entry, which means he let this person in. Soon as we did the background check, up pops a sodomy charge from Bronx sex crimes. He had been charged with having oral sex with a student in the school where he's the guidance counselor. Now, this is going to be pretty bad because, first of all, the school denies any knowledge of it. Second of all, the principal of the school is a real arrogant racist. Just by the way he operates, he can, you'll refer to me as doctor. I said, good. You'll refer to me as Detective Sergeant, and this is Mr. Cruz, is Detective Cruz. So he denied knowing anything about it. It turned out that because the school interfered, the original charge was dismissed and then had to be reinstated. So now we know what the possibilities is. This kid must have been back there, and he must have tried something with him. We contact the parent of the child. He's only 15 years of age.
And he's the victim
Okay.
from the first charge.
Yes.
Same kid?
He's the victim from the sodomy. And I speak to the family and says, listen, we got to locate your son. I don't know where he is, but he's in trouble. And so she tells me the whole story. She went to the precinct in Harlem, tried to report it. They wouldn't take the case because it was a sex crime. Had to go back to where the sex crime occurred. It was in the Bronx. The Bronx sex crime gets involved. Very convoluted because of jurisdictions. Okay.
Yeah,
This
Vernon,
is Harlem.
sorry to interrupt you. I need to ask you a question because it was really confusing me. I've never seen oral sodomy used before, but that's kind of how it was described as the previous charge, oral sodomy. So that's oral sex, nothing to do with anal sex.
Sodomy. He was performing oral sex on the student, and in turn, he was buying the student sneakers, clothing, and he was preparing this student for a sexual encounter, and that's what happened.
I just never, I always thought sodomy was straight up anal sex. I didn't know sodomy could be applied to oral as well.
Yes, absolutely.
Interesting.
Absolutely. And that was the charge. Now, in the kid's mind, it's a ghetto kid, right? He's getting blowjobs and he's getting sneakers. He don't think of himself as a homosexual. He thinks the teacher's homosexual. But now the teacher's not satisfied with that. And later on, we're going to find out when we get the kid that he tried to bend him over and have anal sex with him. And that's when the kid went batshit. So in the crime scene, if you looked at the crime scene presentation, it might appear as a push-in robbery and a burglary. But there's no forced entry, so it's not a push-in. Number two, it wasn't a burglary. The kid is looking for the pictures he took of him in a compromising position. He's trying to get the pictures back.
Right.
So now we know who we're looking for. We're looking for the kid. With the help of the parents and the grandparents, we're going to get him. He's at his grandma's house in Harlem. It's 2 days later. We bring everybody in. We Mirandize them, but know the rights, that the family knows the rights. And the kid reluctantly tells us exactly what happened. And that's what it was. He was okay with the blowjobs, but not the anal sex. And when he tried to force himself, he defended himself. Now, here's the problem. He's a school teacher. This is a sexual encounter. And we have a black issue with the principal. So the first thing the school does is they deny they were ever notified because he's a guidance counselor. You know how dangerous that is? He's a guidance counselor and he's involved with the student.
That's insane.
Yeah. So police department, typical police department, they start backing away when the Board of Education makes noise.
Yep.
I said to them, no, we're doing the right thing here. When I make the announcement, and I will never forget this, I said, this young person who's being charged with this homicide was perfectly fine and a normal young teenager until he became involved with the deceased who initiated homosexual sex. Well, let me tell you something. I opened up a beehive. I never realized there were so many activists in the world. Now I'm being threatened by Colonel Moran of the Gay National Guard. I said, what the hell is the Gay National Guard?
Yeah.
I really don't give a shit. Now he's sending stuff to the precinct and threats and all kinds of stuff. The bottom line is the kid was found guilty. He was a youthful offender. And listen, the guy died. But the police department got a wake-up call because the police department didn't want to own up to the fact that they notified the Board of Education. So I notified the media. Yes, the Board of Education and the principal was notified. So kind of controversial.
Yeah.
But I landed on my feet because I did the right thing.
When they sentenced the kid, did they take into account that he was being groomed in a way?
Oh, absolutely. That was the defense.
Yeah. So he didn't get like a huge sentence.
No, not at all. Not at all.
Oh, thank goodness. Jeez. Yeah, that is, when you said the principal is racist, was he a black guy that's racist against white people or a white guy racist against blacks?
Yeah, he was a black guy racist against white, especially white police. I mean, he was like, he was out of control. And I laugh because this silly son of a bitch, you know, you might be a PhD, but I'm a homicide detective sergeant, all right? So don't try to outfox me because you're going to get outfoxed. And I did him at the end because I had the notification when he was notified, who notified him, and it was in the newspaper. So I can't help if the high command was playing backpedal because I'm not playing backpedal because my name's out there. So I'm going to make sure the right thing's done.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, and that is a very disturbing kind of trend in the school systems, the underreporting. It's gotten better, but I've seen that quite a bit where the school, like they just want, like school resources, officers I know that deal with this stuff, is they want everything squashed. They don't want any students arrested. They don't want any investigations.
They want everything copacetic. I had another case where the woman of the mother of the child came to us to report that the teacher was having these special sessions after class with some of the students. He was grooming them, right? So she didn't go to the school. She went to us. I said, no problem. We're going to be on top of this. So I get the sex crimes involved. And we find out that every Tuesday, this teacher's having this special after-class thing for his special students.
Ugh.
And what it involved was the students having sex with each other and him watching, giving them marijuana, beer, and all these magazines all over the place that it's perfectly normal to do this. So we know when it's coming. So as the kids are coming to the apartment, we're picking them off one by one and bringing them downtown to our sex crimes unit where they'll be interviewed. The last kid comes to the door. He knocks on the door, right? The guy opens up the peephole to look. He starts undoing all the locks. Pull the kid out of the way. We come charging. You have no right. They say, I got a search warrant, you asshole. Right? And the apartment was a disgusting situation. All these magazines laid out, all these Polaroid pictures of the boys having sex, right?
Oh,
And
man.
you have no right to do. I says, yeah, I have a right, and you're under arrest, and blah, blah, blah. So just to make, I was going to make a point because I had no use for the Board of Education. I notified all the main media stations, the legacy media, all the fake news, ABC, CBS, NBC. They're all outside with cameras when we walk this guy out. Well, holy shit. You think I farted in church. Next thing I know, this calls from downtown. What's going on in the Bronx? What are you doing? I said, we're locking up somebody. He's a bad guy. You can't, you should have notified the Board of Education. I said, I would have, but then they would have told him we wouldn't have got him. The bottom line, we got him, embarrassed the shit out of him. You know what they did, the police department? They came up with a new rule that if you have a suspect that's a member of the Board of Education, you have to notify the police commissioner's office so they can notify the Board of Education.
Of course.
That's not on my watch.
Yeah, that's unbelievable. I mean, man, I can't believe that, Vernon. That you always wonder about guys like this, and he's like an educator. Like you have this master plan to groom and molest all these like teenage kids. Like no one talks more than a teenage kid. Like how would he ever think in what world he would get away with that? Like that would be fine. Like no one would ever find out. Like is his perversion so strong that it overpowers his common sense? It must be it.
Well, sure. And guess what the Board of Education did? They transferred him to another school.
Oh my!
That's how they solved it.
That's twisted.
I know.
Yeah, why don't you trust these guys, Vernon? What's wrong with you? Oh my
I know.
gosh, that's unbelievable. ProForce Law Enforcement, the best damn cop shop in the nation, whether you're purchasing for an entire agency or you're an individual officer looking to buy firearms or duty gear, these guys are the best in the biz. ProForce has law enforcement exclusive pricing and is the place to be buying your guns and duty gear. They carry all the top industry brands, and the guys and gals that work there understand exactly what law enforcement officers need. Special discount link, tps.proforceonline.com. It's deeply discounted items just for the listeners of this show, or you can go to proforceonline.com and shop the whole place. Place is unbelievable. You can also visit Prescott, Arizona in person or Brea, California in person to get hands-on with the gear. All the contact stuff is in the show notes. Thank you, ProForce. Vernon, another one. This one's kind of a big chapter. Chapter 28. It's called Drug Dealer and Dog Senseless Killing, the Nun Case. If you don't mind, I'd love to go through each one, starting with the drug dealer dog case, because this is as disturbing as crime scenes get, in my opinion.
It was a sad case. It came in on a Monday morning, but actually started Friday night. We get a call of suspicious circumstances, possible DOA at an apartment because of the smell. It's June. Okay, there's a rotting corpses in the apartment. When we respond, the door's locked. It's got all kinds of super locks on it. Guys are drug dealers, are cocaine dealers. So we go up the fire escape, and oh my God, I see the biggest freaking dog I ever saw in my life. At the window, I'm going, woo, emergency service. That's who we call when we're in trouble. We call emergency service.
Yeah,
Bring
what?
the dog.
That's the ESU, right?
Yeah, ESU.
Are they like
Emergency
are they like the
services.
catch-all? They do like people jumping off bridges, out of control dogs.
Those are when people have SWAT teams and special forces teams. That's our ESU. They're terrific. They're all specially trained, course trained in all kinds of maneuvers, and not only taking people off of roofs and bridges, but also assisting on search warrants where people have guns. Okay, we have better guns, but they have better guns than us. So they come up. It took 6 darts to bring that dog down. Let me tell you something. That was
Oh,
a big
they
damn
tranked
dog.
them.
Yeah. Well, we chained the dog to a radiator. A radiator is a heating unit in the old-fashioned apartments that they had
Yeah.
in the city. You can't move a radiator. I hope the dog doesn't move. We get into the apartment. I crawl through the window, and of course, the first thing I see is a little baby in a crib. The little baby is very lethargic. She's been there over the weekend in a hot, steaming apartment with the stink of death.
Ugh.
No food, no water, no nothing. And no, I get into the living room, and there's the husband, okay, and the wife. And the wife is laid across the husband's lap, and her entire face is gone. The dog was eating the face, because that's what
Ugh.
dogs are going to do. It's going to eat. Now, he was such a bad bastard that the dog wouldn't screw with him, so he's as a face. Interesting dynamic in that case is I'm looking at what went down. Obviously, he shot his wife, then he shot himself. There's something called cadaveric spasm. When a suicide shoots someone and shoots himself, their hand seizes the gun. You have to literally pry that gun from their hands. It's a dynamic that you find. It's a rarity, but it's a very important observation because you can unequivocally state that that person fired the gun, and I can designate this case a homicide-suicide. In any event, people have gathered. Calls are being made by people who know the woman, right? And her mom shows up. So I have the baby, and we open the door for the ambulance group. I get the baby out of the apartment, and we bring her to another location where the ambulance people can take care of the child. She identifies herself as the grandmother. I have to make a decision. You know, this kid has been subject to the most horrific circumstances imaginable. Let the grandmother hold that baby.
Yeah.
Let that baby have some sort of nurturing dynamic after what she's been through. And of course, I authorized the woman to go with the baby to the hospital. All right. Now, meanwhile, back at the scene, we're putting everything together, the cocaine, blah, blah, blah. It turns out on Friday night, as they were coming into the building, he had told his wife, do not talk to anybody. They're all DEA. So he's seeing agents where there are no agents.
Yeah.
He's using his own product. He's getting
A little psychosis.
A psychosis, exactly. So what happens is she sees a girlfriend. She goes, hi, Maria, you're dead, he says. Nobody heard the shot. I don't know when it took place, if it took place Friday night or Saturday. All I know, we didn't get there till Sunday. Now, all of a sudden, here I am, and I'm really pissed off about this. I as a father of children, you
Sure.
just can't stand to see a baby subjected to that. I get a call from this officious ass at the hospital, social worker. By whose authority did you release the baby to the grandmother? I said, by the authority vested me in common sense, you silly son of a bitch. I'm the commanding officer. I designate a homicide suit. If he cared about it, he wouldn't have shot his wife and left the baby to be eaten. The baby was the next meal. How do you like that? Right? And if you don't like it, report me, you stupid bitch. I unloaded on her, Steve, because I just was pent up with emotion.
Yeah, that is unreal. I mean, it's always in a police case like that too, where it's always amazing when someone will come in with an off the wall comment and not taking in the totality of what you've been through dealing with this case. Just kind of comes right at you. That's pretty ballsy, especially to do that to the supervising detective.
Well, yeah, I don't think that'll happen again.
That's unreal, man. That poor woman. I mean, I've seen like cocaine psychosis or drug-induced psychosis, and it's usually a lot more fun than that. Like I've seen people completely naked running down Main Street, like, jumping and saying stuff. And
Well, that cocaine will do that. Same with crack. They feel they get overheated. They're taking their clothes off.
yeah, it's that's crazy, man. Damn, you've seen so much disturbing stuff, Vernon. It's does it bother you at all? Like you got it locked away somewhere?
You cannot unsee what I've seen. And if you saw my book, Practical Homicide Investigation, and my textbook, Sex-Related Homicide Investigation, you're going to see the most outrageous cases in the world of what people will do to other people, especially psychopaths, sexual psychopaths, and the havoc and the damage that they unleash on their fellow human beings is indescribable. And I'm going to tell you how I deal with it. I clothe myself in the armor of God.
Yeah.
I'm a very religious person. I go to church every Sunday, every religious holiday.
Same.
Do a lot of praying. Yep, I do a lot of praying. And I have my Michael the Archangel on. But you have to have the ability to clinicize this stuff and at the same time analyze it. And you can't analyze it without looking at it, and you can't clinicize it without having the background to be able to put this into its proper perspective.
Right.
And that's, my claim to fame is I have some of the most horrific cases in the country, all documented in my textbooks, but I've seen these things, and you can't unsee them. So what you do is you pray for the strength to deal with it. And eventually you'd be surprised. I mean, I'm able to look at things much differently. I don't see the human person anymore. I see the forensic evidence. It's not my mother, my sister, my brother. Okay? You got to pull that emotional stuff back. You can still be emotional, but this is the reality of evil. And there's a lot to be said about dealing with evil. If you watch and you deal with too much evil, you could become evil. So,
Yeah.
I'm very careful.
Yeah.
Very careful.
Yeah, absolutely. And definitely faith in Jesus Christ can definitely help you in that. I've felt it myself, and there's nothing, I've had lots of cops on that are Christian too. And, a lot of us think like it's, how can you do it without God? Like it would be so hard. We work for God.
Work for God.
Yeah.
Okay. You should have yours there too. It came with the book.
I love it. Oh, is it in here? It's got to be in here somewhere.
Should have been, yeah.
It might be upstairs because you sent me a nice card.
Might be in the envelope. Might be in the envelope.
Okay, I'll have to check. That's very cool. I'll put that up. Vernon, next one I thought was really interesting was, especially because me being a kid that grew up in the 80s and 90s, hearing adults talk about New York City saying like, even the kids are killing people. Like it's so unsafe. Like nobody wanted to go there. So when I was reading this one about a Yonkers youth gang killing, I kind of brought back all those memories. Listen to my parents talk about like, if you don't go to New York, if you have to go, don't go here, don't go there, don't go in the subway, don't go in the parks. It seemed like a war zone, like you've described it as. Can you talk to us about the Yonkers gang killing and what happened there?
Well, I don't know which one you're talking about because I had a lot of cases from Yonkers. Are you talking about the off-duty Yonkers cop being killed, or you're talking about?
Oh, sorry.
You're talking about the Skolin case, the young
Skolin.
kid, 15 years of age.
Skolin.
Oh, yeah, I remember that case very well. Very, very emotional case. Once again, the police 5-0 squad, and one thing I did as a squad commander, I always addressed the outgoing platoon and told them what I wanted at the death scene, what I wanted them to do. I gave them crime scene sign-in sheets. I gave them instructions. I said, because let's face it, if the patrol force is not working with you, they're working against you. We don't need curiosity seekers at the crime scene. We need to have that scene shut down. So I had a code word that I gave them. I want you to adapt. ADAPT. Apprehend, detain, assess, protect, take notes. Most important thing is note the notes because things are changing before you get there. And I had those cops pretty sharp. So what happened is one of the kids, there were three together, and they saw a fire in Van Cortlandt Park. So they thought maybe their friends might be in there. They were on school break. So they walk in with a radio. Next thing you know, it's the wrong crew. It's the South Yonkers badass crew that's in there. As soon as they got there, they knew they were in trouble. They get surrounded. The one guy comes up to him and says, "Give me that radio." He throws the radio into the bonfire. He says, "That's my brother's radio." Next thing you know, plunges a knife into his chest.
Oh,
The kid goes about 10, 15 feet. He collapses. His heart stabbed right through the heart. The other kid gets beat up and he runs away, runs into the street and sees a police car from the 50 precinct. Flags him down. Well, cops immediately respond, but there's nobody there. When that happened, everybody scattered. So I get a call at home and I come in and there's this Skolin boy, Christopher Skolin, I remember his name, lying there, sad. And I'm saying, okay, listen, this is not a Bronx case. These idiots came from Yonkers. We got to notify the Yonkers, get the patrol force, notify them, have them round up their local assholes, because that's what it's going to be. So that's what we did. The Yonkers cops responded. We told them what we had. They knew exactly who it was because it's the same characters all the time. We had a lot of stuff on the borderline of the Bronx and Yonkers. And
Yonkers,
I made it mine.
the sergeant there gave you a little pushback, right?
Westchester County.
Yep.
That'd be the first city north of the Bronx.
So I thought that was part of New York City, but it's not. It's its own thing.
No, it's not. It's Westchester County.
But the
So
sergeant,
what happened is,
the sergeant there gave
I'm
you
sorry.
sergeant gave you some shit though, didn't he?
I'm going to get to that.
Okay.
First, we had them all rounded up, and we're getting the word, what went down, who's responsible, etc. So we picked up the stabber. All of a sudden, this Yonkers patrol sergeant arrives. "This is bullshit. You're not taking anybody. These are Yonkers arrests." I says, "Excuse me, Sergeant. The body's in the Bronx. Okay, I'm the commanding officer of the Bronx unit." I said, what seems to be the issue? "You guys screwed me with the Son of Sam case. We have the Son of Sam case. You guys stole it from the city." I said, "Whoa, slow down. I wasn't part of the Son of Sam case." Okay, that's from downtown. I says, "I'm just a local precinct commander, detective commander." I says, "I'm going to make sure that all your people get recognized for helping us round up these characters. All right? No, we didn't take nobody back." I says, "Okay. I tell you what are you going to arrest him for? What do you got him for?" "I don't know." I says, "I know you don't know. It's all homicide. The body's here. Okay, the body belongs to us." He reluctantly goes along with it. And of course, I write everybody up from Yonkers. You want to know something? Guess who became my best friend every time we had an incident in Yonkers in the Bronx? He saw the light. He was apparently pissed off about something that happened to him.
Yeah.
That's it.
But you see that in law enforcement. He's probably New York City's the big brother, comes in, takes your thing away. He was probably
Exactly. And once I explained and where we were, and in the future, don't we had other cases because the Yonkers jackasses would come to the Bronx and the Bronx jackasses would go to Yonkers. So it was like, it may have been a different jurisdiction, but we worked as one group and we were very effective. In fact, there was like a lot of cases I had that on the borderline that went well, but had to be taken care of. But you got to know how to talk to people, okay? How to neutralize that.
yeah.
Anyway, the sad part about that story, I was present to make the death notification to the father. The father and mother were devastated. This
I
was
bet.
their old boy that you'd have going to Catholic school. They were stripping and saving to send him to Catholic school. So he
Ugh.
wouldn't go to the local public school to keep him away from the shitbirds. The bottom line is he's dead. We went to the funeral parlor. I expressed our condolences from the police department, and we were able to make the arrest. We got the second guy later on. He surrendered with an attorney. Okay. It's all under control. So now, let's go a few years forward. I'm now the commanding officer of Bronx Homicide. And I get a call of a body at one of the universities on the borderline. It's on the borderline of Yonkers and the Bronx. I respond as I get out of my car. As this gentleman kind of walks up to me and goes, "Mr. Geberth, I just want to let you know that we pray for you all the time." And I go, I look, and I still see his name, Skolin. He aged about 20 years, the father, and he's praying for me. I said, "Oh,
That's awesome.
I never forgot that. Never forgot that."
Yeah, I love that. That's a beautiful ending. I love that part of the part of that write-up that I read. That's so cool. It's such a shame, Vernon, that even when I was growing up in the 80s and 90s, it was like everybody at least went to church on Sundays. They might not have been super religious, but they went. Like it was a thing to do. There was a little social pressure to be religious. And now it's like, my family and I are like, of course we hang out with Christian families and stuff from all different denominations. At this point, it's like whoever you believe in Christ, let's hang, because it's just we're like the oddballs, It's I don't know. I think it's part of the degradation of America, the moral degradation.
Yes, it is a breakdown, a very serious breakdown in civility, and it's kind of insidious. It starts with misbehavior, and then you find it comes into the government, and then you have politicians that are so inappropriate, no decorum. The shit that comes out of their mouths is so out of sync that you would never hear that back when I was young, when you were young, right? And the things that are being said, right? We're witnessing the breakdown of America because this divide and conquer mentality that is being perpetrated by whatever special interest group they want to call themselves, they're all the same. The Communist Party is supporting it. George Soros is supporting it. And this No King's Day, what a crock of shit.
I know.
That is nothing but the divide and conquer attitude. And believe me, the enemy is gaining. However, at the same time, we're seeing a resurgence in our youth that are pulling back from that. They don't want that. I'm thrilled with the increase in the people signing up for the military. Why? Because the military is so important in the formation of future characters in our country, in our society. And I got to say this, I sincerely believe that Trump was elected by the grace of God. I really do. Because if we didn't have Trump, if we had 4 more years of this incompetent clown Biden and this socialist government that they're trying to push down our throats, we'd all be speaking Chinese in a few years. This is craziness. I want to see us come back. I want to see us come back as a proud nation. I want to see respect for law enforcement. I want to see our cops respected. And we got to get rid of some of the commanders and some of the chiefs of police that came in under the woke generation. Because I'll tell you right now who started this shit. Barack Obama.
Yeah.
He came in here to divide and conquer. He started his shit in Cambridge, Massachusetts, with the cops, with that crazy teacher, that radical character, right?
Cop tried to ID the guy, and they ended up at the White House having beers because of it.
It's been going on since, and the demoralization of the police, putting people in charge of the police that are anti-police. I mean, let's get real here. They're not qualified, and that's the problem. You have to be qualified to be in the position you're in. And I always was a strict constructionist. If you can't do the assignment, you don't belong in the assignment. It's not fair to the department. It's not fair to you. It's not fair to your partners.
Absolutely. Yeah, you're right about Obama too. Like, there's a Pew Research study on it, and of all places, and it shows racism in America, all the different metrics they measured, and 2008 it goes boop, the divide begins. It just got radicalized at that moment, which is,
Well, the institutions, the colleges, right, and the legacy media, you can't believe a word they say.
I know.
Okay, and listen, I got 2 master's degrees, Steve. Let me tell you something. The second master's degree is in clinical psychology. If you don't think I had to do a lot of liberal bullshit to get that degree, but never let higher education change my morals or my values.
Yeah.
Okay. And that's so important because what happens, they have these kids under the rule of these radical teachers, and the kids want to pass, and they've got to mouth back whatever they're supposed to say, and it's very insidious. It takes a long time to undo a country.
Yeah,
but I'm telling you, we were at the brink.
It's bad. I got a buddy of mine I go to church with whose son wasn't sure what he wanted to do. His dad's a programmer. He was teaching him some coding stuff, and he decided, I'll go to college. So he went to college. And he made it about a year, and then the straw that broke the camel's back, let's say, was one of his college professors. One of their assignments was writing a paper on how lawn care and mowing your lawn could be seen as racist. And the kid works for a tree company now. He's like, see you later. He left. I don't blame him.
It's craziness. It really is. And I'm glad that I was in police policing when I was, because I was there. I was a pioneer in a lot of aspects of policing. A lot of the procedures being used today in homicide, I pioneered. Okay, I got the first DNA case in New York State, third one in the country. Okay, I was always striving to find something new, something better. I was trying to be the best homicide person in the world, and there's no such thing. Okay, it's a teamwork effort. We need all kinds of people involved. But I was lucky to be in there when I was in there because I didn't have to tolerate a lot of shit.
Yeah.
Okay, when there was police corruption, not me. I was the TPF guy, and it worked right through my career. When I became the commanding officer, I was involved in some heavy duty cases. I mean, you talk about the mafia. I got a degree in mafiology, 2 years, right? Wiretaps, bugs, listen to these guys talk and being involved in these cases. And when you're doing electronic eavesdropping and you're eavesdropping on conversations, there's a lot of people who think they're cute. They're bad guys. I'm talking about cops. They're in conversation with these people.
Yeah.
And the investigation I was involved with, nobody was going to be touched because they wanted to get the 5 major crime families in New York. So none of the corruption was pursued. When the case was over, they were supposed to pursue the corruption. But you know what happens? Politics. This guy's a cheap, this guy's this, right? I kept notes. Later on, when they tried to screw with my people, I said, don't fuck with my men because I know what you did. What are you talking about, Geberth? This is Operation Uncover. This is, some of the biggest thieves became integrity officers. Don't bullshit me and don't fuck with my people.
That's unbelievable. Yeah, that's smart. Vernon, I've had you almost an hour. I got one more to go through if you don't mind taking us through it.
If I remember.
You will. I mean, there's a ton in here, and you are remembering these almost to the T because I read them. So you're doing probably better than I would. This one's about you mentioned Trump earlier, and this is kind of apropos because this was a nun that was put into a coma by a street thug, and it involves the Trumps and some other stuff.
Horrible case. Came in Christmas Eve. I forget her name. Sister, I can't remember.
Sister Margaret something.
Sister Margaret. Thank you very much. She was mugged and whatever they hit her with, she had a concussion. She was almost dead. By the grace of God, she lived. We had nothing to work with. No description. Nobody saw anything. It was like, robbery patterns, nothing matched. So I did something that probably was really unique. I employed a psychic. Now, you can't tell anybody you're doing that because they'll think you're a psycho. But I had gotten access to this psychic through the FBI Academy when I was there, and I had heard about her. And she could give a reading of a crime scene based on things that she touched. It was called psychometry.
Did this conflict at all with your Catholic beliefs? Were you conflicted because of her dabblings in the dark arts?
No, not at all. I'd try anything, Steve. To solve this case, I'd try anything. I sent her a set of keys, and she gave me a reading and described a male black, gave a description of what he was wearing, and she described a body of water. Now, there was no way that she could know there was a reservoir next to this convent, because nobody thinks of a reservoir in New York City. All these buildings and subways and stuff. She actually gave us a reading, and that was as close as we got. But what happened, there was so much publicity on this case. At Christmas time, nun's in a coma, she's going to die. I get a call from my chief, Chief Dreyer. He says, Vernon, I want you to go to this Mr. Trump's house, and he wants to offer a reward, but he doesn't want anyone to know that he's doing this. So you're going to handle it. I says, who's Mr. Trump? Don't worry about it. Here's the address. I didn't know who Trump was. The father. So I go out to
Fred
Queens.
Trump.
And, Fred Trump. I go out to Queens, and I meet him. He invites me in. Would you like to have a drink, Sergeant? I said, no, sir, I'm on duty. Yeah, how are we going to handle this? I says, well, you made an offer. I says, I have a one-piece paper here that you agree that upon the conviction, upon identification and apprehension of this person, you're going to provide this amount of money. I think it was $5,000. I forget how much for the amount of money it was. And he said, oh, no problem. He signed it. I go back. I notify the press. Now the press wants to know who it is. Now Vernon's not giving it up. And my chief, he's Vernon. So they tried everything to try to get us. Nope, nope. I can't tell you, the man's anonymous. He doesn't want any publicity. He wants to do this for the family.
That's
Anyway,
awesome.
I mean, long story short, we didn't have to pay the reward because we couldn't find him. But what's interesting is that after I retire, Donald Trump tries to do the same thing and offer a reward. He's referred to the legal division. By the time he finished with the legal division, he was so freaking frustrated. He calls him, send that detective sergeant that dealt with my old man. He knows what the fuck he's doing. So the eunuch in the legal division, right, gets my name and number. I'm already retired. Vernon Geberth, by whose authority did you make a legal agreement? I says, do you ever take business law, you stupid bastard? I says, it's a business agreement. He agrees to this. We sign it. The police department. You can't do that. I said, I did it.
Yeah.
So anyway, that's
Trump awesome.
Story.
That's awesome. Man, I can't believe that. I mean, because especially back then, and still now, largely, nuns wear the habit. And I mean, that's the person you're going to bash in the front of the head. A nun?
Listen,
animals.
These savages could care less. Yeah, we'll talk about my chief. I just saw something. This is what my chief said later on, because he reviewed my book. He says, I've known Vernon Geberth for 35 years. He was my #1 homicide commander in Bronx County. He always showed dedication, competency, and commitment to excellence, guided by his principle, remember, we work for God. He broke the toughest cases with passion and fervor, along with his comprehensive knowledge and expertise. Vernon never followed the crowd. He was a leader who made its mission to know every state-of-the-art technique, never hesitated to develop or apply new strategies when necessary. His enthusiasm and skill has reached his highest potential. That's pretty nice.
That's awesome. So this is a chief you liked working for?
Yes, yeah, that was Chief Dreyer.
That's awesome. Yep, we're here on practicalhomicide.com. Is this a resource where people can get all your stuff? They can order it right from here, or do they go to like Amazon or something?
Yeah, you see right below that large blue box, they see podcasts, training calendars. I don't have one anymore. Research material, current events, and I have a number of research documents on there that they're welcome to download. Whenever I did a research project, I made it available for my fellow law enforcement officers, and so that's it. It's a source.
Awesome. Practicalhomicide.com. I myself, of course, have the book. It's amazing. It's a really not only educational, but it's a fun read. It really is. And like you were saying before we started, I like that you can have this in your patrol bag and just kind of pop in and out of it. It's not chronological necessarily. It is kind of, but you can pop into a chapter and read beginning and end of that investigation. You don't have to read it in order.
Yeah, every chapter is independent, and it just that it leads up to where I was. But the bottom line is that individual stories, and some of those cases are really amazing. I'm glad I was able to solve them. The ones I can't solve, yeah, that's life.
Yeah, that's life. Can't get them all. But Vernon, thank you so much for coming on again. It was an absolute honor to have you.
Oh, thank you, Steve. I appreciate it. You take care.
My pleasure, sir. I'm going to do the outro to the show. Can you hang on for like 2 or 3 minutes?
Sure.
All right. The great Vernon Geberth. Super fun to have him back on. Just incredible career. And the book is, I highly recommend it. Practical Homicide Investigation from none other than the Godfather of Homicide himself. Go check it out. Go to his website. Link will be in the show notes for you to check that out. And this is a time in the show when I thank the Patreon sponsors. If you really love the show, you listen to all the free content, and you want to show me some love monetarily, you can do that through the links. If not, don't worry about it. The show will remain free so you can hear the men and women of law enforcement tell their stories, their real-life stories, unedited, how they live them. But who I'm talking about, these are the lieutenants, the great and powerful Andy Biggs. Lieutenant Kyle Roberts, thank you. Michael Roach from Roach Machines, check them out. AI Solutions, thank you, sir. The great Thomas Connell, everybody. Now to the sergeants, Adam Alexander, Adam McMahon, Adam Mihal, Ben Peters, Brad Thompson, Brett Lee, Dan Carlson from Burley Boards, amazing woodworker. Check him out on Instagram. Sherry Finch, thank you, Madame. Clark LaCuff, everybody. Dave Ellman, Dennis Carrasquillo, thank you. Doug and Kelly Newman, love you guys. See you at church. Dylan Mosher, Elliot Sykes, Gabriel Decknop, thank you. Gary Steiner, everybody. The great George Cariotis. Greg Gadboy, everybody. Jackson, Dalton, Black Box Safety, check them out. Thank you, Jackson. James Rose, ladies and gentlemen, the great Jason Labrie. Jason Lau, everybody. Jessica King, thank you, madam. The great John Jordan. John Shoemaker, everybody. John and Aaron Kate, love you guys. See you at church. Lauren Stimson, everybody. Thank you, madame. The handsome Lane Campbell. Lisa Gano, holding it down to dispatch. Thank you, Lisa. The great Marcus Johansson, thank you. Iceman from Motor Cop Chronicles, check out his podcast. The great Nancy Hammond. Paul Maloney, past guest, excellent episode, check that one out. Thank you, sir. The great Raymond Arsenal. Richard Tolles, keep on trucking, my brother. Sasha McNabb, everybody. Sam Conway, thank you, Sam. Scott Young, Sean Clifford, Seth Wright, Sheriff Ronald Long, thank you. The great Tammy Walsh, holding it down to dispatch. Thank you, Tammy. The great Tony Fahey, Zachary Pleat, everybody. And the handsome George Tessier. Thank you, sir. Love you. See you at church, guys. The list is getting long, and I do appreciate it. Thank you so much. Gonna keep them coming. And I love you guys, and I'll see you next week.